I'm sorry, this is a really dull title. And I know it's dull, and I got bored. I fell asleep just looking at this title slide, so I decided to change it. Does that sound more interesting? Yes. Right, so let's do that instead. Okay, so yeah, who am I? So I live in Edinburgh. I spend far too much time on planes. It feels like my home is actually a plane seat. So I've been doing development and technical stuff since being a web developer back in the 90s, where we were doing iterative and incremental long before anybody came up with a funky name for it. Yeah, certifications, logos, dull, dull, dull. And I'm a lapsed Particle fan. In that, I don't go to church anymore. So yeah, we're going to talk about metrics. So, who knows Dr. Deming? Okay, so if I'm going to put one quote up about Dr. Deming, what's it going to be?
What we trust.
Okay? Chris wins the prize. Here's the interesting thing. There is no data for Deming ever having said or written such a thing. The irony there kind of tells its own story. But it's a fair comment. Data is really, really important. So, data helps you make decisions. Without it, our decision-making process gets a little bit interesting. So let's think about where we might want to live for a nice sunny day, or a not rainy day. Where would we rather live if we want beautiful sunshine, beach weather, lack of rain?
Mexico.
Of those. Of those. Come on, play the game. Yeah. Which one would we not want to live in because it's rainy as hell?
Hobart.
Where's Glasgow on the list?
Oh, you're reading ahead. Come on. See, this clearly I've got people in the room with local knowledge. Okay, because there's the rainfall figures for, you know, the Antipodean options. And you think, where does London fall in that? Higher, lower. If you want lack of rain, move to London. Don't move to Australia.
It's the wrong kind of rain.
It's the wrong kind of rain. All right, so where's Glasgow in the list? Now, I'm from Edinburgh. We know the Edinburgh joke. I went to Glasgow, it rained. Okay, today's the exception. Where do you think Glasgow is in the list? Yeah?
Highland, London.
Highland, London, absolutely. Almost, well, more than double London. But it's by no means the highest. We make assumptions about data. All right, here's another one. Who has the highest rate of heart attacks, men or women? Wrong. Women. By a huge factor since data collected in 1984. Long-standing data. Women have more heart attacks, more likely to die from heart attacks, less likely to get good treatment, because all the research is on men. Because everybody thinks, oh, it's men that die of heart attacks. It's not. Let's start by admitting we have a problem. And part of the problem is data is addictive. Yeah? I think there's a lot of people here who work for large organizations that say things like, we love data. We should drive everything by data. So you end up going crazy with data. Dashboard after dashboard after chart after chart, and it doesn't tell you anything interesting. Huh? More dashboards. So there was a CIO of my acquaintance. Used to walk around with a deck, literally print out 34 pages of dashboard that he used to go around the organisation accosting people saying, what about this? Didn't really help him. Why are we collecting data? to be able to make decisions differently. So the great thing about data collection was these German secret police. They could tell you on any given day what colour socks you were wearing, pretty much. But they couldn't process it into useful, actionable information that would let them predict this. You have to have a use for data. It has to have a point. So, in your organisations, which data, which metrics are abused?
Velocity.
Velocity, absolutely.
Utilization.
Utilisation, yeah.
Efficiency.
Efficiency.
Average day rate.
Average day rate. Consultant. Sorry? Number of scripts run. Estimates, yeah. And presumably how accurate your estimates were, your single point estimates, right? Before you actually knew enough information to make precise ones. Yeah. Crazy, absolutely crazy. So we have all kinds of traps that we fall into. So here are a bunch of them. Anybody recognize any of those? Things that don't tell us useful things. Okay, here's 4 data sets. Okay, tell me interesting things about those 4 data sets. Statistically, they're all the same, aren't they? All the summary stats, and that's a problem when you rely on summary stats. They all look the same. Are they the same? Not so much. Visualizing data, visualizing metrics, is often incredibly powerful. But with the raw data, unless you do something useful with it and process it into an actionable format, it's not particularly helpful. And if your data doesn't have integrity, who knows where you're going to get left? And we fall into the one tool to rule them all syndrome. And we end up with wonderful visualizations like this. Anybody recognize that tool? Okay, good. It's HP's tool. But they're trying to do something useful, but it doesn't actually give you anything helpful. And then there is the one tool to rule them all. What's the one tool to rule them all?
Zero.
Actually, no. Above that. What?
Rally.
No. Version 1 survey. What's the tool that 60% of Agile organizations and teams use? Excel. And another 18% use Google Docs. So you find yourself, and tell me if you've found yourself, because I've certainly done this, far too much time massaging data in Excel from numerous data sources. Okay, the doors are closed. Okay, stop filming. No, do. Okay, let's tell no tales other than I confess, and I confess, okay? Who here has spent working time gathering data and analysing it in Excel using pivot tables? Okay? HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP? Yeah, trying to abuse Excel as a database. How many of you have put it on your LinkedIn profile? It's our dirty little secret, right? We haven't got anything that actually tells us useful information, so we gather it together in something that at least we've all got on our machines and feels like it's under our control. Of course, again, I will confess, and I'm not going to ask anybody else to confess, but think for yourselves. How much data integrity problems you caused by that? How much misleading of people? How many typo in the formula means you get very misleading things? And I used to run fairly sizable PMOs, so I'm very guilty of this. Misled many of the very senior stakeholders some of whom were smart enough to spot it. Yeah, no, we don't do that. It doesn't help. So, back to Dr. Deming. This is the long form version of the one I usually quote. This is the ultimate misuse of data. Using data for targets. Once you start using data as targets, it becomes incredibly horrible, incredibly useless to be able to provide you the information that you want to do in the first place. This sounds like I'm saying burn all data, it's not useful. Yeah, kinda not. Not all models are good. In fact, all models are wrong to some extent, but some are useful. So we need to find some way of being able to drive decisions from information to help us do things better. So what does better look like? How do we use metrics better? So firstly, we need to think about what are we trying to do? Where are we trying to get? What decisions are we trying to make? How are we trying to steer our stakeholders about what to choose to do next? And there's numerous levels we can do this at. And now we have to be able to plot that in some kind of context. Where are we along the road are we? What's reasonable to expect at this point? So contextualizing the data is incredibly important. And secondly, where in the organization, what kind of level within the organization are we summarizing this at? Because the information I need about a team will be very, very different from the one I need about a whole organization. So, again, open question, what metrics are you using? Just for adoption, for example. How do you know if we're adopting effectively the new practices? None? Uh-huh. That would be certainly one way of processing information for sure. Retrospectives for those who were over there. What else?
Visuals, Kanban boards?
Uh-huh, visuals, absolutely. Yeah, and all the data that comes from it. CFDs? Continuous flow diagrams? No, my standard for visualization is a one-eyed donkey running through the workplace should instantly be able to understand what work is going on here, how work should work, what work is going on, where the problems are. It should be at the stakeholder walking past, double take, what the hell? To be able to understand where can you be helpful. So let's think about operational metrics. What are useful operational metrics to have? Hey, Dr. Deming again. I love Dr. Deming. Look, an actual sourced quote. Nobody challenged me on the second one, which is kind of weird. This one has an actual one, okay? If you set numerical goals for other people, bad things happen. Generally, you will have the opposite effect to the ones you want. And the worst is when you use them as targets, not for steering. The minute you make something a target, it's then kind of, Schrodinger's cat territory. You impact the very thing you need information about. Let's not do that. Let's continue to have useful information to be able to help us understand how do we do this better. But the moment we start putting targets in people's job descriptions, they will do everything in their power to hide the data or massage it in a way that helps their own personal things. And that's rational behavior, and you can't blame people for that. We also have to understand that when we're steering, we have to look at the right kind of level. Who skis? Yeah, good, not me.
As well.
Definitely not me. Okay, when you're skiing, how effective is it if you're looking at the tips of your skis?
Suboptimal.
Suboptimal. Very nice description. Okay, where do you have to look? Forward. Absolutely. You have to have your eyes at the right level of the data. So here's a CFD. Who reads CFDs? Does this look like a good CFD? I'd say that's a pretty good CFD. That's as even a flow as you like. Yeah, could you control the whip a bit better? Yeah, probably. Oh, this is a large group, by the way. This is several hundred people. Possibly even as many as 500 if I remember the source I got it from. So that's not bad on a story level. Then you raise your eyes from the stories to features, and you run a CFD across that. How does that look? Less good. Suboptimal. So keeping your eyes at the right level of data is really, really important. And understanding the sources of the data is also really important. Another Deming quote I could have put in, don't let anybody use data that doesn't themselves collect data, because then you understand the weaknesses in it. So you need kind of a balance, okay? So here are some metrics that I tend to use that are useful at the kind of level we need. Yeah? Because these are things that people care about. And when I mean care about people, I mean stakeholders that are likely to say, keep doing that, or stop. So they tend to be stakeholders I care about. Okay? So here's some examples. Do it fast. What do we mean by do it fast? Cycle time is probably the best one of these. How long does it take? What's the sustainable time between having an idea and being able to actually execute that idea and derive value from it? That's a really powerful metric. Because I bet when you start measuring it, you realize it's in the order of months and years. Yes, you can look at productivity, but you have to be really, really careful with it, because the minute it gets into the hands of senior management, who you haven't had a good conversation with about the limits of the use of data, they'll abuse it. And all productivity measures can be faked. There's not one I would rely on. Especially once the people who are producing the data understand that you're using it to measure them with. So let's be careful with that one. Predictability is good. Yes, we need to have adaptability, that if things need to change, they should change, and that's right. But you offer a business exec the choice between raw throughput and predictability, they will take predictability every single time and twice on a Sunday. It's like crack cocaine for them. Scott, what was the conversation we had today? About predictability?
Yeah, so...
Don't need to name names, but...
No,
Yeah.
I will do. So, there's a digital group that Craig knows that Craig was there, and Craig Patterson told the digital group, he was talking to David Duffy, and David Duffy is very clear, if you can get predictability, you'd rather have that than commitments we can never achieve. So, as far as he's concerned, one thing to go for is predictability. And that's what Craig told us, and Craig dived in and believed it.
Yeah. And that will be consistent with almost every exec I've ever talked to. You need to have a conversation about how reliable out in the future predictability is, but when you make commitments, being able to meet them is really powerful and builds a huge amount of trust, and trust is the currency when you're trying to do change. Okay. Keep doing it. We already talked about NPS score. How happy are your people? If you can quantify it in this kind of way, that's really powerful, because you can say, well, at the start of what we were doing, it was here, and now it's there. If you want to get all Dan pink, you can run surveys, and you can track them over time. Or if you want to be really, really low tech, what you can do is when you've had an event, whether it's a sprint, whether it's a release, or whether it's a what, just do a one-word survey. How did you feel? How did that event feel to you? And you put it in a Wordle. So here's my current customer for their mid-range planning meeting. Tell me how do you think it's going? When the best word they can come up with is, well, good. And you should see the long tail of words as well, especially the negative ones. Oof. So this was really powerful when I took it to our execs, customer execs, to say, what you're doing sucks and your people hate it. And it wasn't in much more gentle terms than that. They already knew it kind of sucked. Because a mid-range planning event that's supposed to take 2 days takes 2 weeks is already pretty bad, right? But this is how it made the people feel. Oh, was the response. And we're now getting change. So, some simple mantras. Firstly, teams execute. Yeah, some very, very, very simple team level metrics. Yeah, that help you understand. So, Kanban boards, simple burn downs, all that kind of good stuff. If you're trying to customize this in any other way that comes out of your tool, you're working too hard, and I don't trust your data. If you're making people record stuff specifically to produce this, you're working too hard, and I don't trust your data. This has to be generated from what people do simply by virtue of doing the work. Yeah, simply to be able to track the work through should be able to generate the stats. Should be able to generate CFDs, velocity charts. How healthy are we? How well are we progressing through our features that we've committed to? Should come out straight out your tool. Second mantra, programs deliver value. This is the kind of thing you can really get your business engaged with. What are we actually delivering for you? How can we predict how good this is for you? So, simple dashboard, and I know I was down on dashboards before. But you want a simple, one page. Can I glance at that and think, is this basically okay, or am I in trouble? Yeah, so burn up, burn down, CFDs, defect counts, yeah, feature progress with very simple traffic lighty stuff. Are we where we expected to be at this point? Not for the purposes of beating up the team, but do we need to manage stakeholder expectations? Is there any way we can help the teams? Do we need to look at scope and say, well, we're not going to get all of that, are we? Reality doesn't actually care about your plan. So let's work on what's the best we can do from here. And again, feature level Kanbans, again, with nice traffic lighty stuff that can tell you, with nice warning signals, uh-oh, we've got a problem here. That one's running into problems, taking longer than expected, not to blame the teams, but simply to be able to understand what decisions, especially prioritization, might we have to take. And simple burn up, kind of CFD type burn up, but to be able to understand what's scope doing at the moment, how well are we delivering it, how fast are we delivering it, are we going to make the release with the kind of level and number of features that we expected, what are the milestones coming up, what are our queues like, all that good stuff. And then we realised that a browser has popped up a window in front of my PowerPoint and makes it non-responsible to my clicker. And then you want to be able to steer at a portfolio level. So you need a view, again, for execs at a portfolio level that they can look at and they can understand. And this is not dissimilar So you can start understanding when you're developing your backlog, what's there at a very high level. So these are epic level stuff, really, really big. What was our preliminary estimate? Is it one of those or is it one of those? And how's that panning out? And when you're doing prioritization, sizing really helps. Being able to understand value really helps. So you can do all the good prioritization stuff. Occasionally, very occasionally, glance backwards. Okay? I don't care what your average velocity is. What I do care is, where is it different from what I expected? And what can I learn from that? What helps me make decisions that we can do this better, collectively, as a system? So if we have a throughput, where is it nice and stable and where is it all over the place? What happened there? What's the contextualization? What do I need to understand to be able to have the consistency in the future? Because consistency for execs is really, really powerful. So, nearly there. Final thought. Data's great. Data helps you make decisions, but only to a limited extent. You may have all the feature details of every toothbrush on Amazon. Are you really going to compare every single one before you hit buy? Okay, was this good for you? Fist to 5. 5 is awesome. 1 is the stairs are over there. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Wow. Thank you very much.